Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Before we get started, we gotta light the Jamie Fraser candle. I'm in a different position than I've been in times past because I'm not fighting with the lighting. We're just gonna get into this, okay? So, holy crap, we're back. We're here. It's happened. This weird blanket behind me is actually my Dragonfly and Amber blanket that I got from the Bookish box or whatever. They had an Outlander thing, so that's right there. But here's my little black book that I took all my notes in. And if you're new here, if you haven't watched any of my other Outlander breakdowns or how this goes, well, welcome to the party. What I bring to the conversation is I'm a book lover first, though, I mean, I did first watch the show before I found the books, but my heart and my true love is of the books, and so I'm not just going to ignore the source material when I review the show. The whole purpose of what I do is to go over the show, tell you how I feel about it, and then I will go over how closely they stuck to the book for those scenes, if I think they've left out anything important, how I feel about how they interpreted it. That's what you're going to get from me. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you like this. Make sure you join the conversation down in the comments. I'll have a question posted down there for you to interact with. If you watched my reaction to the final trailer as well as the episode titles, I was wrong about a lot. Part of it being that I purposely stay away from a lot of the PR and the marketing that happens. So I hadn't listened to any interviews besides there was one that was done for the 10th anniversary thing. That's what I watched, which didn't have a lot about this season in it. So I didn't get into any of that at all. So I know that on my reaction video and stuff, there was people definitely saying oh, well, they've said this and this and this, which was great. That's totally fine for people to say, because I was just making speculation based on the episode titles and what I thought was going to happen, right? Because as I've said for a couple of years now, since I've known that they were going to end with season 8, they've said that for a while now, it's been known, I thought they would end with book 8 because book 8 has a very nice kind of a natural pausing point. And apparently, from what other people said, season 8 will be kind of the ending that Diana planned. She just, when she writes it, she'll obviously have a lot more to go into. So book 8 will not be the end. I guess by the end of season 7, we will be through book 8. And now after seeing this episode and how far into the story we are, I can see how they're going to do that. And I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. Part of the reason, again, that I thought we'd end at the end of Written in My Own Heart's Blood is because it has kind of a, as we say in the romance world, a happy for now situation. I don't know where they'll end it with the other ones, so we'll see what happens there. But anyway, this is my little notebook. So the way that I do these videos, as I said, I'm going to go through the episode basically scene by scene. I take notes, I'll react to what I saw and everything, and then in the second half I will do an analysis of, I literally have my book right here, and I'll go through which scenes they covered and things like that, and then I give it kind of an accuracy rating, and then finally at the end I'll talk about what I think is going to happen in the next episode and stuff like that. So 5 minutes in, let's get going with this. Yeah, we had some very interesting things happening with this. So we started with them, well, I actually rewatched the final 2 episodes I had to rewatch right before this one. I had saved them. So the final episode of part 1 of season 7 ended with them on the boat, and they finally were seeing Scotland again, which was very moving. It's very beautiful. And then this one begins with them on their way to Lollybroch. So we see them riding the horses, and there is a voiceover from Jamie, I think a little bit about you know, going home and everything. Now we are going to get introduced to 3 time periods are happening at the same time. So we go to Roger and Buck, who are waking up, and we don't know what time it is yet, so I won't like say what it is yet. They're waking up. They know that they've moved because Brianna and Mandy are no longer around them, and they're not sure what time they went to. They're hoping that the time that Jemmy went to was the time that Claire and Jamie were in. But we'll soon discover that's not true. So they have no idea where they're at or what's going on right there. So it seems insurmountable that they're going to be able to find Jem, you know, like they just have no idea how they will. They're pretty sure that Cameron isn't going to hurt Jem, at least until he would get the gold, because Jem apparently is the only one who knows where it is. So that's interesting anyway. So yeah, that's interesting anyway. Then we also get a scene of Bree and Mandy like driving away, and Bree is very like upset. That, from what I will see, is like the only clip of Bree we get in this one, which is fine, but there's going to be more with that for sure. Okay, so now we're in 1778 and we arrive at Lollybrock. We see the new Jenny, who, of course, it's so hard to miss Laura Donnell. It absolutely is. But I feel like this actress did a really good job. And even sometimes, like when I wouldn't be like looking directly at the screen, I would hear, like, I think she did a good job of, you know, both being like, just being older Jenny, but also sounding like Laura Donnelly at points. Like, I don't know if that was for you, but sometimes I would close my eyes and I would hear it, especially when she'd do like incredulous Jenny, you know, where she'd be like upset or something. So she hasn't seen her son in all these years, and Jamie's afraid that she's going to be very like upset with him, but she hugs him. But what we discover is that Ian the elder is very ill. He has consumption, and you know, even Claire, who has knowledge of future medicines and has so many skills as a doctor, there's still some diseases that even the cures she could come up with, she can't create them here. And there's also some diseases that once they just get so far, it's too late. And consumption is something that still like can kill people, you know, far into the future. Like she mentioned, she's like, when I was a nurse in the war, people were dying of it too. So yeah, that's very hard to see. Then we see they get put in the Laird's bedroom, so we're reminiscing a bit about being there before with Jamie and Claire. And then we have the 2 Ians catching up with each other, and I'm gonna cry through this sometimes. You guys know how these go if you've seen other ones. Oh my gosh, they did such a good job of giving us time with, you know, older Ian. Gosh, that actor is fantastic. And especially some scenes where he would like be smiling at them or whatever, like the pure joy he infused into his performance of like this man who is ill, but you can tell like his dying wish almost was to see his brother again and to see his son, and he's got that, you know. And even Claire and Ian too, like, oh, that's really hard. They've always connected over, you know, being the ones who are married to Frasers and how difficult it was to be married to them. Oh man, this is rough. We're only 10 minutes in and I'm tearing up already. So there was a quote that I wrote to Ian. You know, he talks a little bit about just about like who he's going to be with, and Ian brings up Rachel, and he says like, I left my dog with her. And older Ian is like, I think you need to be a bit more clear than that when you get back to her. And he says this, he says, a good wife is the greatest gift God gives to a man. I thought that is pretty true, and it's very good. They're often the making of the person. Then it's time to put the feud with Leary to bed, of course. So Jamie asks Claire, will you shoot me if I go talk to Leary? And she's like, well, make sure she doesn't shoot you again. And he's going to go there. So then we switch again. We see Roger stomping through the Highlands, and him and Buck decide to split up so they can cover more ground. Roger, of course, is heading to Lollybrock. That's the place he's going. He's hoping that he's going to find Jenny and Ian there, and he'll be able to like explain who he is and everything. Also, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. In this book, or in this episode, we have the Jamie voiceover at the beginning, but then very quickly we actually get Roger's voiceover, and we have quite a bit of his voiceover. Pretty much every time we see him, we're getting some of his voiceover, and I feel like they made that choice to kind of fill in some of the context clues that people wouldn't know, either because they haven't read the books or it's just been a long time since we've heard certain things. I think that is something that they are doing with that. But yeah, we have a quick scene of him stomping through the Highlands on his way there. Then we have this Jamie and Leary scene, and I always say this, I really love the actress who plays Leary. She, of course, gets a lot of, like, crap from the fandom because everybody hates Leary, but that actress always does such a good job of it that I'm always happy to see her and that she gets to pop back in, and Leary actually has a man now, but if she were to remarry, she would lose the alimony that Jamie pays her. But also, she just is like gonna get everything out of him she can, and a lot of it is about spite. And so we have this back and forth with them where she, you know, he's trying to ask for forgiveness from her. And, you know, for a moment it seems like she's kind of going to get it, but she's still just so bitter. And it's so weird to hear, like, her side of it. You know, she dredges up some of the history of, like, you stepped in for me. Did you even think about me? Like, when you kissed me, you were already thinking of her. Like, you were already in love with her. And I think it's very interesting, too, because Jamie, I mean, it's not like this is a full, like, she's confronting him, but there's not really anything he has to feel that guilty about, okay? Like, let's be honest. He barely leads the girl on. I know that sounds so whatever, but, like, he stepped in and took a belting for her, or, like, a punching for her. She was going to get a belting. He took a punching for her. And then, like, you know, she gives him a kiss as a thank you. That's all he ever did. He's just a nice guy. Like, if we remember Jamie back to when he's young, like, he kind of flirted with everyone from young to old. It's not that he, you know, I mean, he was a virgin when he married Claire, so it's not like he was sleeping around with all the gals, you know. But she read so much into that, and so part of her just deep-seated hate of Claire is that she feels like, you know, Claire swept in, this witch swept in and stole him. And, you know, she never had a chance from that beginning because he was already cared about her. And then when they got married, he was heartbroken over losing Claire. He was a shell of a man. And so she points out, she's like, you only married me for pity. And, I mean, we can tell from his face that it's true. He did do that. But she also does him a disservice to say of, like, he tried to be good for her. We don't bring that back up, but she was very traumatized from the abusive marriages that she'd had before, that, you know, I always bring this up, it's the tragedy of Leary, that she finally got a chance to be his wife, and she was too broken now to accept it. And again, he was a shell of himself. It never was going to be great, but, you know, she had the chance to be with Jamie Fraser, and she's too broken to be able to enjoy it, is what I would say, right? So then she starts throwing things at him, so he, like, stops her. And then there's Joey, who has been like, working there the whole time, and Joey is the one that she is, like, loves now, and there's a little fighting between them, and Leary says, some things can't be mended. It's just, like, it's hard. Like, she immediately always annoys us, but again, I just point back to, like, the tragedy of Leary and the example of, if you're a woman born in that time, you need to find a man to cleave to have any power at all, right? Like, even the example of Jenny, who is a very powerful woman, she only has that because she's been raised by a man and lived with a brother who didn't cow her or beat her for that. And then she has a husband who is very secure in who he is, and she's able to be that, you know, and Leary never had that. Anyway, we don't have to go in forever on her, but there's a tragedy to her. So now, back at Lollybrock again, more time with Ian, and Claire asks that they tell the family about who she is. She's like, this is the chance. We're here, face to face. Ian's gonna die. It's time to tell everyone. And her other reason too is that young Jamie, Michael, sorry, mix them up. Michael, he is planning to, like, they have one of the businesses in France, and it's not too far off of when the French Revolution is going to happen, and Claire wants to, like, warn him. And she brings that up to Jamie, because Jamie's like, you sure you want to do this? And she's like, you know, we weren't able to save everyone. Like, we weren't able to stop everything that happened, but we were able to save certain people. And why wouldn't we try to save your family if we could? So we sit down with Claire, Jamie. Yeah, we sit down with Claire, Jamie, young Ian, old Ian, Jenny, and Michael. They all sit down, and she explains who she is. And of course, there's the bit of like, I always knew you were a witch. And she's like, I'm not. Like, that's just how it is. And I can't remember who says it or what it is, but he like says, like, he's always needed her urgently. He's always needed her the most. So maybe they didn't tell the family. Did we tell the family right there? Yes. I maybe mixed that up with the order that we told that, but that's okay. Sorry, there's so many moves around. Because then there's the scene leading up to it where Roger's on his way to Lollybrock and he knocks on the door, right? And of course they try to play this off as like, is Roger going to show up there at actually that Claire and Jamie are there, which would have been insane. Like, that's what you kind of think might happen. But no, Jamie is like, leaves everyone at the table. He's like, I'll go get the door. You guys process what we just told you. The Murrays are all pretty stunned with the truth of it. So Jamie goes up to answer the door. Roger's knocking on a door. Jamie opens the door. The door gets open for Roger. Roger sees a man there who is not Jamie. Jamie sees Joni. So if you, I'm sure, remember her, this is Leary's younger daughter. She had two daughters. There's Leary and Marcelly, and you know, Marcelly is off with her Frenchman are they in Boston? No, they're not in Boston. They're somewhere. And Joni's there. And I do believe, I so meant to check this before I sat here. I will check it in my notes. But I believe both the actress who's Joni and the man who's Brian Fraser are the same actors from when those characters have showed up. It will have been enough years for her to be here. So I'll check if that's the same Joni. And then I'm pretty sure it's the same Brian Fraser too, that we only see for a few moments in season 1. But I'll have checked that. Either way, that's who they are, whether they were recast or not. Jamie goes for a walk with Joni, which is so, like, it's just so sweet. He's always so good with the younger people, and he's always been such a good role model to them. And Joni explains that she wants to be a nun, and she wants to use her dowry to, I think you're supposed to, like, donate something when you go, or like she's being married to God, so her money is supposed to go to the church, and her mother won't release it to her. And so she's asking Jamie to find a way to fix it. And she also explains, like, why her mom won't get married and, like, all of these things. And so Jamie's trying to think about how he's going to do that. So then, again, we have Roger opening the door. Like, it's Brian Fraser. And so he's like, oh, my God, I went too early. Is this the time that, like, you know, he doesn't know what time like Jenn went to. That would have been too early for there to be the Frenchman's Gold hidden. Jemmy and Rob, if they went through, would need to go to a time that was like kind of like equal to where they had been before for the gold to be in the place that Jamie said that he left it, right? So Roger's just like, oh no, what's gonna happen? So he first calls Brian Ian Murray, though. He's never seen Ian, so he doesn't know this. He's like, are you Ian Murray? And he's like, no, that is one of our like neighbor people. I'm Brian Fraser, which is just, it's so great. So just a moment, I just want to take a moment to, at this point in time, there are 3 generations of Frasers in 3 different time periods, but all the direct like generations at Lollybrook at the same time in time, right? Because we have Brian Fraser and Jenny there in Rogers there with them in 1739. That's when we find out that it is 1739 or 1740. Jamie, of course, happens to be away in France being a soldier. He's at school, one of those, because he'd be like 18 or 19, right? Which is 3 or 4 years away from when Claire's going to be back there. And then we have, they're there in 1779, 1780. And then Brianna and Amanda are in the 1980 time. So it's just crazy. They're all at Lollybrook, which is amazing. So anyway, then we have a scene, Claire and Jenny goes to speak with Claire to ask her to heal Ian, who, you know, Jenny seems to think that she's like a witch or something, and that's why she can time travel. You know, that always comes around. And Claire is like, I don't have magic. I have skills. I have medicine I know how to make, but she's like, that I can't do anything for Ian. And of course, Jenny, being the stubborn one that she is like, please don't hold a grudge. And she's like, why would you think that? And she's like, oh, because of Leary. I brought Leary around and messed things up. And she's like, Jenny, that was so long ago. And she's like, I would do anything. And it's true, like Claire loves Ian too, and it's breaking her heart to see him suffer like this, you know. But Jenny, she's upset. She runs away, which I understand. I'm not like, Jenny's always an overreactor, but also she's losing her soulmate she's been with for, you know, 40 plus years. I don't blame her for it, but it is hard to see because she says, I'd sell my soul to do it, or I'd trade my soul. And she's like, you don't have a soul, which was really mean. Just saying. Then we go to Roger and Brian. And I think when looking at my notes, this is, oh no, it's not. There's more. Roger and Brian go looking for, he tells them that my son, he was taken by blah, 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 help me find him. And so they go, and we actually go see Murray Sr., so Ian's dad, and Jenny comes riding up on the horse, and they're like, Ian's not here, lass. And she's like, okay, I'm not looking for him. And she tells Roger that Buck has been found and he's been injured. And so they need to take him to an apothecary. So that, we have that scene. Now we go to Jenny and Jamie. And this is really hard. She's actually in the woods just screaming, and Jamie happens to be like, he's hunting for some, I think he has a deer or whatever, and Jenny's just like screaming in the woods, and Jamie comes across her and he's like, do you want me to leave? And she's like, no. And so she's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, what am I gonna do? And Jamie's like, you're gonna cook dinner, and you're gonna be a mom and a grandma, and you're gonna soldier on. And it's so Scottish, but it also is like so sweet. And he like hugs her, and they walk back together, and it's just so hard. It's so hard. It's also like bitter in a way too, because Jamie thought he lost the love of his life all these years ago, and Jenny encouraged him and looked after him, but she also was like, you still gotta live your life. You gotta, you know, you have so many years left. And now it's kind of like she's getting, and not that we'd ever want her to, but it's like you're getting the taste of like, it's not as easy as it seems when it's your soulmate and they're dying right in front of you. So then it's time to solve the Leary and Joni problem. We need to figure out a way to do that. Did I make an extra note about this? I don't think I did, so I'll just say this. But basically, I was sad we didn't get to see Ned Gowan. We didn't get to see him. That's okay. But we talk about him. So he'd written up a new proposal that he would pay like Joni's dowry. He's also going to give the property that Leary's been living at. That was supposed to be part of her alimony. He's going to sign it over to her as long as she marries this guy, and then the alimony is done. So she'll get a place to live. She'll have a place to be, and she'll stop living in sin and marry her like live-in boyfriend, and Joni will get to go to be a nun. So all of that gets handled. Then we receive a letter from LJG, and apparently Lord John Grey has sent this letter to multiple places, and they receive it, and they're asking Claire to return to the colonies to help with a surgery, and she's like, I can't leave yet. I don't want to leave Ian. And Jenny actually says, she's like, do you think you can save this man? Which I don't know how she knows that she can, because it's going to take a long time to get back there. Hopefully he's still alive when she gets there. I think it has to do with she needs to remove a piece of like a musket ball or whatever from this guy. And Jenny's like, you need to go then. Like, it's basically saying like what's happening here is like inevitable. So best to go save a life somewhere. And it's really beautiful. It's tough, but it's beautiful. So Claire's going to be going back to America, and then we come across Ian. Jenny comes across young Ian writing a letter, and he's going to send this letter with Claire for Rachel. And it's Ian is planning to stay until his father dies. He's like, I want to be here for all the time that I have left. And he's like, I don't want Rachel to have to wait for me, because, you know, we're told we're like, Ian could die next week. It could be a year. We don't know how long it's going to be. And then Jenny takes him to the family graveyard and shows him that they had a stone made for Isabel. And Jenny said, this is the place where she's going to be remembered, and we wanted a place where you could visit her. And then she encourages him to go, because he's like, you need to go to your woman, you need to go get her and tell her you love her. And it's a really beautiful moment. It's really well done, for sure. So that Claire and Ian are getting ready to go, and Claire and Jenny make up. Jenny apologizes, and she's like, you know, thank you for being here. And Ian makes his way outside. He hobbles down the steps, and he hugs both Claire and Ian goodbye. And then we just have this beautiful scene. So there's just Ian standing under the Lallybroch Arch, waving goodbye. And I thought this was just, I mean, not only is it so beautiful, he had this big smile on his face, but Ian can have the last memory of his da being him waving goodbye to him, and not having him in a bed coughing himself to death, you know, drowning in his lungs. And that's not how he has to say goodbye. So now we go back to 1739, and Roger has found Buck, and they're supposed to go to this apothecary, or whatever the name they're going by, to get some healing. And who should it be but Galis Duncan? And that is our end. And of course, it's Lottie Verbeek. It's our OG Galis. It's wonderful. And if it's true that those other two are the original actors too, we had about like 4 or 5 callbacks to original people from seasons like 1 and 2, which was just great. I mean, I knew that Lottie was going to be back, and I'm pretty sure that Dougal is too. I'm pretty sure we run into him too. So, of course they had it. Like, they had to be back. They had to be back. And I'm still very hopeful for one other one, which I'll talk about in my scene to come. But anyway, okay. How did I feel about this? Well, no, we'll go into the analysis first. So this was very strong. Obviously, I cried even harder when I was watching it. I cried a whole bunch. I knew I was going to. These scenes in the books are some of the most poignant that I've read, and it's even more so seeing these amazing actors play it out. But now I'm getting all nasally, so I'm gonna blow my nose, and then I'll pull out the books and we'll start going through like how accurate I felt. Fun stuff though. Okay, now to get in what I meant to say. I thought that we had a lot more of book 7 to get through, but I'm now pretty sure that with the next episode, we'll be all the way through this one. I forgot how far into it we were. Like, this is how far in we like ended with the 7A. So this episode itself covered most of what's left here, which I'll point out what I mean. And we even went into book 8. So everyone else, you were definitely right. And again, I didn't watch any of the stuff, so I didn't listen to anything. I don't like to know anything more than seeing like a trailer, because I just enjoy the surprise. Like, the books are the books, you know, they're not a surprise to me anymore. So it's a surprise to me to see how it plays out. But yeah, I personally, before I start going through this, again, the way that I felt with the first half of this season and other stuff, every scene that I see is a book scene. We are definitely hopping around a little bit, which I'll show you where, which makes sense because the times themselves are all over the freaking place. So I'm not like shocked that we did that. But every scene that I saw is a scene I believe is in these books. Pretty much. Do they change the wording? Sure. Change it? Sure. But I think everything I saw was extremely accurate. And that always makes me so happy. So happy. So how do we bounce around? So the biggest thing that the bouncing happens is because parts of Roger's story are like spread out more in the book. And they very much are like condensing that part of this down. And so there's only, and I'll get into it, there's only like one scene with Roger and Buck like doing things here. We actually covered a lot of, because that was the thing, is like, we ended with the Roger and Buck stuff in the last episode before this one, pretty much finishing all of their stuff that's in this book. But then with Claire and Jamie, there's still stuff in this one that was left. So anyway, I know that doesn't make sense, but to go through, the Jamie and Claire stuff basically covers about this much of the book. Okay, I really had to look too, because there were some things that, like, when Claire and Ian leave, none of that is really covered in here. They just are all of a sudden gone, which I had to reread like 3 or 4 times. But anyway, so it starts the same of them like making their way to Lollybrock, and the thing of like, you've made it just in time, right? And all of that is there. Just so beautiful. There's a lot of this that is from like Jamie's point of view in the books, because it's him being back there. But pretty much all that stuff with Lollybrock is the same. Again, it's just kind of jumping around here. So we have like the old debts, which is a talking with Leary and her being upset about certain things. Their conversation is a little bit like longer back and forth. In the book, they do go see the cave that Jamie stayed in during his time. We go see that. Kind of talking through some of the things that he lived through when he was there. Joni, that stuff is the same. Jamie asks, oh, it's so pretty, some of their moments, and like Jamie says, make sure you pray for me when you're a nun, and I'm like, so sweet. I really wish we had gotten more with Joni. I really like her. So, okay, here's where I think things are like a little out of order here. So, not out of order, but just kind of. So, it is true that Claire and young Ian are not there for very long. All that stuff kind of happens in the same way. Like, we're just getting to know each other and everything, and then, or see each other again, and then, like, the letter comes. Of course, there's the reason is different. That's one of them to bring up, is in this one, in the book, it is Marcelly who writes the letter, and it's Henry Christian who is sick, and she writes the letter to Leary. And the letter to Leary is asking her to go to Claire and send her back to America. And that is part of the thing that actually pushes the truce. So I think the book gives Leary a little tiny bit more of a redemption part, because she actually agrees to give up the money and all of those things for Claire to agree to go back. She's there to say, like, I won't keep the money. I don't need the alimony. Please go and help her. And, like, that's a really touching moment. Of course, Claire is like, you don't have to pay me to do it. I mean, I love them. Like, they're her family too. But they still need to, like, come to terms anyway. So even though Claire would go no matter what, she kind of lets Leary think they have to get it figured out. So then we have that basically the same thing. And she's like, we're going to let Joni be able to do what she's going to do. So the way that this ends, like, really abruptly, like I said, is the end of chapter 83 is that scene with Ian writing the letter that he's going to send back. And it's in actually the nighttime. He can't sleep. And Jenny is like, there's this really beautiful scene. Instead of counting sheep, let's see, what does she say? She says the name over and over again of the people they've lost, like it's the rosary, which is really beautiful. And this is when she takes her to the stone that is, he thinks it's Caitlin's grave, who's his little sister who died. But instead it has Isabel's name. I'm gonna cry again. And this is when she says, go to your woman. You'll always be here with us. And this is where it just skips Ian and Claire leaving, because it just goes to, it wasn't until many days later in the middle of the ocean that he realized his mother had called him a man. So we skip the goodbye part, that emotional thing, and Claire and Ian are already on their way back. So we do that. And then what comes next here, I believe, will be in the next episode, which, of course, I'm sure we can all assume it will be the death of Ian. I'm sure that will be covered in the next episode. They have to do that, and I'm already like, my insides are already just so torn up about it. But that's where that's where part 6 ends, is like with that and everything. So now we have that Roger stuff that bounces back. So we actually have the part of them discovering that Jemmy is gone right here. He goes all the way to the stones and, like, finds the proof that he's gone. He almost falls through the stones right then, but thankfully he doesn't. And so they rush back to, get ready, and they're going to leave. So in this book here, we actually have, like, William's POV in this one and things. I think we're going to get that coming up. We have Claire actually already back in, already back there already, taking care of Henry Christian and stuff. So I will not say what is happening in the end of this one, because I know it's going to be in the next episode. We just are bouncing around, because see where I put these big pieces in? These are the, like, Roger things that happen in here, but the stuff in between is still stuff we haven't seen in the show. But again, every scene that they do have in here, I feel like covers it very well. And all of this stuff with Lollybrock and that happens in this one. But the other scenes with Roger and Buck don't happen until we get into this book. So the cliffhanger with Roger and Buck is them like going through the stones. And then when Bree is leaving, there's a surprise for her as well, which I don't want to spoil it because they're definitely going to show it in the next one. But that surprise that Bree has is like where it ends for them in this one. And then we don't pick up on what's going on until well into Written in My Own Heart's Blood. So in Written in My Own Heart's Blood, we have, which I love, like there's a whole bunch of stuff happening in the beginning of this book that I won't spoil, but part 2 in this book is called Meanwhile, Back at the Ranch. And we have, it actually says the date in here that it's October 30th, because it is Sam Hain that they're able to go through, one of the most powerful times, right? It's October 30th, 1980, when they go through Craig Nadoon. And, let's see. And there's stuff happening with Bree. So he arrives there, and then all the things that happen in the show, they happen right here. Him and Buck, they split up. Roger shows up at Lollybrock, discovers that it's Brian Fraser of Lollybrock, your servant, sir. And I love this. It says, Roger felt absolutely nothing for a moment. And all of that's the same. So he does ruminate more on trying to figure out when they are, and this is where the voiceover is coming into the show, because Roger's mind, it literally says Roger's mind worked furiously calculating. Jamie had spent not quite 2 years in Paris at the university and had come back when he was 18. Jamie will be 18 in May of 1739. So it was now 37, 38, or 39 because he's not there. So the first thing that came to mind was the bottle opener had been invented in 1738. The second was that there had been an enormous earthquake in Bombay in 1737. So he's thinking of all the different historical facts. So he's like, it's 1730 something, and Buchan himself hadn't even been born yet. But after all, what difference did it make, he asked. He hadn't been born yet either and had lived quite happily in time prior to this. So he's just trying to reconcile everything that's going on. But then all the way up till when we see Galus is in here as well. So anyway, sorry. That always gets a bit mumbly when I go through that because there's so many jumps to explain. But my point in all of the rambling is that this is one for accuracy's sake. I put this at 9 out of 10. And it's not the full 10 out of 10 just because we've shifted things around. But like, this is some of the most accurate stuff they've put out. They're just so in it with it. And I feel like it's, it's okay that they're moving those things because it keeps the flow of it going better. These books they're so long. There's lots of dead time in there. But we're into some very exciting stuff that's about to happen too. Some very emotional things that are going to happen. And the fact of the matter is, if they're going to get through this book by the end of this season, hot damn, we're covering a lot of ground, and I'm very excited about it, okay? So I'm going to wrap this up. These always end up being long, and this was one that, besides me crying, I'm sure I had to cut out lots of pieces of me just sobbing because this is so emotional for me, you guys. I love it so much. This was fantastic. What I think happens in the next episode, you can now end this if you don't want any spoilers or what you think, but I'm pretty sure based on the previews and based on the pace that we're going, that of course Claire gets back there. And, we'll also see in Lollybrock, we'll see Ian die and Jamie wrap up what they need to do. Jenny will decide to come back with him because I hope they do that. I hope they do that because in the book, what happens is Jamie and Jenny travel back together, and Jenny's never left like Lollybrock in her whole life, which is so exciting. And they're gonna come back, but then the ship that they're supposedly on sinks, and the only reason I go into that detail is the word gets back to Lord John, and Lord John will tell Claire that Jamie is dead, and that will lead to a whole bunch. So the next episode, I'm not sure what the pacing will be with that, but I think we'll deal with the death of Ian. We'll deal with Jenny deciding to go, if they're going to have her come with. We'll deal with like Jenny deciding to come with. I don't know if they're going to do, that's the thing. I don't know if they're going to do that, because the reason for her to come back is to see her, you know, to be there with, like Ian, and then, you know, she will see like Marcelly and, Fergus and stuff like that, because she was like a mother to Fergus for many years as well. And I don't know if we're going to have them in this. I haven't seen a lot of how much they are, so I don't know. But either way, whether Jenny is with him or not, that ship will go down, which leads Lord John to make a pretty like bold offer to protect Claire. We'll also, I think we see too some more stuff with William, and then we will see, we'll see the progression of what's happening with Roger, Buck, and Galus. In the preview, we see some clips of like them talking to each other. And will we go to the fort that Blackjack Randall is at? So there's two things that I think might happen, right? Because we still don't know if we're getting BJR in this, okay? They have hidden that so well if it's happening. I really hope that they do. Okay, I'll be really sad if we don't get one last peek at Tobias Menzies. I will be sad. I hope we do. If not, there is a possibility, because at, I think, part of the story when they go, like, Blackjack Randall is like away from there when they stop, and then I think when they come back later he's there, or they wait for him there, I don't know. So they could just have him name dropped and say that he is busy and whatever, but they're gonna ask him for help there, and I just hope they do, because Roger, it's so many things for him, you know, to be sitting across from this guy that he knows will torture and rape his father-in-law and his mother, like all the, you know, he has to sit there. So I hope we get those. So those are my predictions and hopes. Let me know your thoughts. Again, I'll have a question down below. How accurate do you think this was? If you don't read the books, did you still enjoy this as a you know, how's it going for you? And yeah, if you made it all the way through, make sure you give me some thumbs up or some hearts down below. And yeah, we will see you next week for sure. Bye.